I'm Andrew Morris, and I've been involved in the fintech space for about 25 years. And the first part of that was as a executive at a bank, as a management consultant, sort of traditional types of roles you might have in the industry. Okay. And then about 10 years ago, I saw the advertising for this conference called Money 2020 and went to the conference, thought it was terrific, ended up speaking the next year, meeting the founders, and had the opportunity to join the company as the head of content, and was there until about 3 years ago, building that event. And so my whole career changed, and during that time, there was this other conference called LendIt, that's now Fintech Nexus, that was on its journey. And I had a great time with Peter Renton as we were both building our respective conferences together. So I appreciate, I'm here today with a great panel through a partnership between a conference that I'm now helping to produce called Fintech Islands in the Caribbean and Fintech Nexus. So Peter will be joining us in October 4th through the 6th in Barbados as a speaker. And we have the opportunity today to talk to you a little bit about Caribbean fintech and the opportunities there. So that's a bit of why I'm here. So let me set the stage by talking a little bit about the things that I've learned about the Caribbean that I didn't know before I got involved with this. So the Caribbean, if you take it as a region, all the different island nations, has a population of about 45 million people. So for perspective, Canada is 38 million people. Spain is 47 million, so it's about the same size as Spain. The UK, that we all think of as the global hub for fintech, is 68 million people, so not that much bigger, right? So if you look at the whole region, it's a much bigger opportunity than I think most people realize just from a scale. About half of the population of the region are unbanked or underbanked, so it's still largely a cash-based society. Lots of opportunity to digitize and provide access to the financial system for consumers and small businesses. So with the Caribbean, you've got the CARICOM community of nations, which includes countries like Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti. We're represented by two great panelists from Haiti. Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago. Then there are British overseas territories there. That's Bermuda, the British Virgin Islands, Cayman, Turks and Caicos. Jamaica is the most populous, with about 3 million people. The Cayman, as you know, is known as being a tax haven, so unique to that region. The Dominican Republic, interestingly, is probably the largest economy in the region and is very active from a fintech perspective. Bermuda has some unique advantages, only 60,000 people, but it's become a global hub for digital assets and for insurtech. And Barbados, where our conference is held, only 300,000 people, and yet the Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, punches way above her weight on the global stage. She was named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people globally, and as a global advocate for climate justice and for financial inclusion. So let me kick things off. So my panel is Pascal Elie, who's the chairwoman for CellPay, Carmel Cadet, who's the founder and CEO of a company called MTech, and Chris Burns, his company based in Bermuda, is called First Atlantic Commerce. So I'm going to ask each of them to kind of share their observation of something about the Caribbean and fintech in the region that might surprise you, but that they feel is important for you to know. So Pascal, maybe you could take that first.
So Thank you, Andrew. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So yes, what I'm seeing in the Caribbean is that the region is very determined to fight, to, to find solution for financial inclusion. And they are deploying innovations such as CBDC, digital currency, and the adoption is quite interesting. It's not there yet, but their relation with their diaspora and the way their economy is structured, very reliable on tourism and remittance, a lot of unbanked or underbanked. So that makes it all those factors makes it very interesting to adopt new innovation that can bring a solution to financial inclusion. And the digital currency and fintech and digital finance can bring secure payment accessible to everyone. So it's happening right now in the Caribbean. So the momentum is right. I was saying earlier that the Caribbean region is a lab for those innovation, and it's very interesting. The outcome is very interesting, and we are seeing fintechs and other products that are picking up and that are bringing real solution to real problem for the unbanked and for the structure of the population, the way they are doing transaction, and most importantly by connecting them to the global market.
So it's interesting. So thinking of it as sort of a lab, as a sandbox, pardon the terrible pun, for innovation.
For innovation.
So Carmel, what are your thoughts on kind of the region?
Sure. So I'll echo Pascal's words. The opportunities are clearly there. This is a market that has unique challenges. It is also, from a distance and proximity, I should say, it is a very interesting market to align with what the U.S. is also offering. And when you think about the development of financial services, of fintechs in the U.S. and Europe, Africa, and around the world, there are some models that actually have made their way to the Caribbean, whether it's the M-Pesa model when it comes to mobile money. But now it's really about how do you bring the region into Web3 and the interest that is already there when it comes to digital assets in Bermuda, for example, or cryptocurrencies serving as methods of payment in a better way than traditional rails. So you see a demand already in the region, and I think there's a great appetite for better infrastructure, which is part of, we look at it from, you have the fintech infrastructure that needs to be built. Us at MTech, we focus on the central bank side and building that core infrastructure for financial services to be resilient, sound, and inclusive. And I think the region is ready for that as well. It's just a matter of, how do we all work together to tap into that?
Right. It's interesting. We've seen that in other parts of the world where, for example, countries that don't have a credit card or a payment card infrastructure, jumping straight to something new like mobile. Yeah. Even the classic example of M-Pesa in Kenya, right? So there's an opportunity. Maybe the jump here is straight to central bank digital currencies, right? So it's an even bigger leapfrog. So Chris, what are your thoughts?
No, and that's exactly what I was going to jump on right there. Is that I've been working through the Caribbean in the fintech payment space for 19 years, and it is an interesting microcosm in terms of taking that risk on new solutions, right? So whereas in the US you have much higher credit card penetration rates, much higher GDP, much higher access to historically bandwidth and broadband and things like that. Where is the Caribbean? We're in this era now where people are prepared to make that sort of almost quantum leap into something new. And you look in Bahamas, for example, we have Sand Dollar that's been up and running now for at least a couple of years. People are pushing that forward. Eastern Caribbean, you have Dcash, which has been up and running for at least a couple of years now as well. You have companies like Bit out of Barbados that have been pushing the digital asset space, the stablecoin industry for a long time now as well. And there is this, classic resistance from the traditional, banking infrastructure. The Caribbean is home to 3 major Canadian banks, which people probably don't really know, like Scotia, RBC, and CIBC, which historically are very conservative bankers in the first place. So once you bring this new technology in, there's just a little bit of a holdback there. But then you have the bigger domestic banks in places like Jamaica, which you have NCB, you have spun off Link, which is a digital wallet product, sort of almost to compete against themselves to see which model is going to be more attractive to the customer base. So from my perspective, it is a great place to test these new solutions, services, and find which ones are going to be able to rise to the top.
Right. So we are on the innovation zone stage, and what we have on our panel are 3 examples of founders, CEOs of companies that are representative of doing fintech business in the Caribbean. And I'd like to give each of them a chance to talk a little about their journey as a founder and what led them to start their company, and talk a bit about their company and the work that they're doing. So maybe we start with Carmel this time. Okay. about MTech. Yeah.
All right. So I was born and raised in Haiti. I moved to the U.S. in my late teens, got fascinated by financial services at the time, just how different it was coming into the U.S. It was easy to get a $500 credit card, and my mom got way too much credit than she needed. And it was really fascinating to be able to buy a house and borrow a lot of money and pay it over time. It was very different from where I came from. In Haiti, there's about 27% banking penetration rate now. And over the years, the de-risking mechanism have moved global banks away from Haiti. So having experienced that and coming into the US, I became fascinated on how can we build better financial markets for everyone. I really believe that everyone deserves access to sound and resilient financial products. It impacts lives. Access to credit can really change someone's life. And when you're thinking about emerging markets, access to capital and access to credit is something that can be very impactful. Of course, no 2 markets are like Haiti, right? And coming into the US and then being exposed, I went on to spend about 10 years at IBM. So having a global perspective, being able to understand financial services in the U.S. and outside of the U.S., understanding how to build locally and understanding how culture eats everything for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but also being able to build globally, right? And having a sense that it's not just a Haiti problem, it's not just a Ghana problem, it's not just a U.S. problem, that financial services at an infrastructure level could serve better if it was more modern. And then so we got into blockchain. I got the blockchain bug in 2017 when I was at IBM. So I decided to jump into that and see how can we move cash, the paper cash that everyone uses in their country. How do we use blockchain to digitize that? And this is where I got really excited because the Central Bank of Bahamas was the first central bank who decided to launch a central bank digital currency, which is CBDC, which is essentially a digital version of the paper cash, but using certain technologies. Then I went on to launch MTech, and MTech is a central banking infrastructure company. We help modernize central banking infrastructure. Today is for the fintech era, tomorrow into the Web3 era, and we're pretty excited about that. This is something that's going to not only help at a kind of enterprise level and regulatory level in every country, which is good for investments and growth and so on, but it would be great for fintechs. I would love to think that what we're building is great for Haiti Pay, is great for financial commerce. In that itself, building that better infrastructure to have a stronger ecosystem. Thank
you. So we'll come back to talking about regulation and working with central banks a bit later. So Christopher, talk a bit about how did you become the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, and tell us about what you're doing. Yeah.
I'm not sure we got time for all of that, but so I've been with First Line of Commerce for 19 years in various different capacities. I joined there when I was 27, sales guy, and kind of worked my way up through the company to become CEO 11 years ago. And from my perspective, it was never something that I actually envisaged that I would be doing. But when we started the company, which is, for those of you who don't know us, it's an e-commerce payment gateway company. So think Stripe, PayPal, but focused predominantly on the Caribbean and Central America as a business. So we are, I'm from Bermuda. I'm Bermudian. I'm born and bred there. And Bermuda is a very small place, right? 60,000 people, 25 square miles, 700 miles in the Atlantic. And when we were starting the company, and I didn't found it, but I was there very early on, it was very apparent that a company like ours needs a lot of transactions to go through the system, right? So Bermuda being 60,000 people, 35,000 purchasers, we really couldn't keep the lights on with being in Bermuda at all. So we tried to venture into the States, we tried to venture into EU, we were as far afield as Mauritius at one point, and we were competing with some very large companies, from a base in Bermuda, and we were never really going to put boots on the ground in Europe or the US. So 10, 11 years ago, we changed focus and looked at the Caribbean, and we looked at Central America, and we saw a lot of gaps in the market. So, I think when people look at innovation, sometimes they view that as you have to burn the house down and then rebuild something completely different. We took a little different view of it and saw, okay, well, there's an established banking system. There's already a card present system in there. There's lots of infrastructure in there to take card transactions. So we rolled out our gateway platform systematically across every bank within the Caribbean, one by one, integrated with all of them, worked with them. And, we had a messaging that was, we are, even though Bermuda's not technically Caribbean, we feel like we're part of the Caribbean, and
we've adopted you at Fintech Islands.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a part of it.
Yes,
yeah.
For sure. And from our perspective, we understand what it is to be an island nation trying to succeed and get the attention of larger companies to get things done. So we took an approach that we are going to provide that what was classed, first world technology, and bring it to a region that we cared about, and that was tremendously successful for us because it was, people felt like we actually wanted to be there. We weren't there by accident. We were rolling out, we were invested in the communities. We understood that the Caribbean is just not one region. It's 13 sovereign nations, 21 dependent territories within there, and each island nation requires something different, even though some of the banks are in all of those. So we took the time to understand that, to roll it out, and a number of years later, we feel like our mission is to grow the economies of the countries that we're in. So we're in 29 countries now, 14 different banks on the back end. We're processing probably about 70-75% of all the e-commerce transactions within the Caribbean. We're turning our attention to fixing some problems within the point of sale world and the non-integration with there, and evolving the technology there as well into things like SoftPOS to try and meet people where they are. So everybody has a phone. Android's prevalent within the Caribbean, so we're going to be rolling out technology that will sit on the Android phone and act as an acceptance device. So trying to move the barriers to accepting card payments. Credit card penetration rates are low within the Caribbean, but they're getting better. And with places like Jamaica and Trinidad that have these local loop debit cards, Jets and Lynx networks, they're getting branded now from that perspective. So there's a lot more opportunity to do that, and trying to roll out sort of, kind of archaic, Verifone VX520 terminals into the countryside in some of these countries is hard, but everybody has a phone. And everybody looks after their phone, and that goes with them everywhere. So you can turn that into an acceptance device. It really changes what we're looking for. So that's our continued mission as a company, is just to improve the overall payments infrastructure of every country that we're operating in.
Well, it's interesting, the story. We talked at dinner last night about how important relationships are culturally in the region. It's true in other parts of the world, but maybe particularly important here, and that you've carved out a niche for yourself because you're willing to build those relationships, are patient with that, can adapt to the differences of all these different local markets, and maybe larger companies have not had the patience to deal with that. We'll keep it a secret. Nobody from here, no one from Global Payments or FIS can do this, just him. But so it's an interesting story. So thank you, Christopher. So Pascal, talk a bit about CellPay and your mission in Haiti. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. As Carmel, I was born and raised in Haiti, and my first experience with financial sector that is properly working is when going to college. You know, you have easy access to payment, easy access to credit, etc. I started at that early looking into how financial tools, financial service could be accessible to Haitian population because as part of the Haitian community, remittance, international remittance is part of our journey. Everybody in Haiti has a family sending them money from the diaspora. So it's always something that you're looking into when talking about transaction and talking about access to funding, access to money. And right back in Haiti, I started working in financial sector, traditional banks, and trying to decentralize insurance product. So the sector was already talking about how having transaction, financial instrument being more accessible to the population. But it became a reality and it became exposed. The fragility of the financial sector became exposed after the earthquake in 2010, where no one has access to their bank account for a very long period. So it moved quickly to the telcos offering digital wallet as a service. And then since then we started talking about financial inclusion and digital payment. We funded Haiti Pay, a fintech in Haiti in 2013. And talking about digital finance and digital payment in Haiti very quickly direct you to the primary source of funding of every family, which is the diaspora. So that led us to start CellPay.
Really figure out how to digitize and make efficient the KYC and AML process, which even the banks haven't really figured out yet.
Yeah. So one more topic I wanted to touch on before we wrap, and this will be for Pascal, is we talked about the 45 million people that live in the region, but in addition to that, there's, I don't know the actual numbers, but there's the diaspora, right? The connection to the Caribbean where maybe you were born there and now you live elsewhere in the world, and it creates an even bigger opportunity, and Pascal's company is directly dealing with that. So talk a bit about that aspect of the opportunity and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, that the diaspora is contributing into forcing or encouraging the adoption of digital finance and pushing to bringing a better financial environment also. And today with the education the diaspora is bringing to their family base in the Caribbean region, they know about crypto, they know about all the digital payment and facilitation and access to credit. So by being better educated about what's existing, the Caribbean region, they want to have better service, better access to finance with at a better rate, at better structured, and so that's where the fintech are proposing an alternative to what the banks have not been able to offer. So yes, banks should not try to be fintech and fintech not to try to, they complement each other. And the experience has shown us at Haiti Pay and CellPay that we are not competing with banks, we are competing with cash actually. And so the way our financial journey is the diaspora is encouraging that innovation and pushing us to go to better and offering better financial transaction. And the regulator has to catch up, because technology is somehow always in advance to regulation. So the regulator has to catch up. We went from a simple paper saying that in Haiti, saying that fintech has to be partnered or digital money has to be offered by banks, to fully regulated fintechs by central bank. And today the Central Bank of Haiti is looking into CBDC model. And they are in it and moving very fast with what they want to implement, very fast in a certain way, but they are really putting that idea in the mind of the population that we have to move to digital payment, and the end user is actually ready to use that rail and that way of transaction. So the diaspora has played a very important role into educating our users and forcing the economy to move to digital finance.
Okay, so I think we're at time, so we need to wrap. But I would encourage you, those of you who are here who have expressed interest in the topic, whether it's mobile financial services and remittances, central bank digital currencies, modernizing central banking, or payment gateways, point of sale, all things payments, that you would come and chat with our panelists when we wrap up. If you'd like to join us at Fintech Islands in Barbados, we'd love to have you. Love to talk to you about the event. Thanks for being here, and please join me in thanking our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.